Hello, and welcome to the midterm explanation for Comp 440. So this week we are going to work through what a KPI is and how we can find KPIs within our data to show significant events over time. So the first thing that we will do is look at a different sets of graphs that you could show different sets of data. So while Excel gives you a number of charts and graphs to be able to display information, it doesn't tell you what these are best for or when you should use which. So I found this neat infographic, and you can see that there's bar charts and line graphs and circular area charts. Um, there's histograms and scatter plots. Um, this is a tree map. This is a stacked bar chart. This is a waterfall chart. Pie charts, area charts. You can do stacked area charts. These are relationship type charts, which is a scatter plot. This is distribution scatter plot. They are the same type of graph, but it shows you different ways to show a relationship between two variables or the distribution between two variables. If you have something that's changing over time, if it's relative and absolute differences matter, then these are good visual representations of the data. If it is over many periods, then this also can show differences, especially if there's growth and decline. Um, if you have many categories, then you don't want to have 75,000 lines stacked up or a pie chart with, I would say, more than 7 slices because it gets really hard to read the teeny tiny little slices. So things like bar charts, horizontal and vertical are good for those sort of data displays. And and line charts are good when there is um, where you want to show a trend. If it's cyclical, excuse me, cyclical data, you could use the circular chart to show when it gets back to the beginning of the cycle. If you were looking at, say, um, holiday sales or enrollment or customer initiatives, things like that. Because around tax time, that's a big time for retailers to try to get people to spend their tax refund. Christmas time is another big time, um, things like that. So take a look at these graphs and decide which ones, once you look at the midterm, which we'll go over, which way you would like to display your data. You don't actually have to make the graphs. You just have to explain which one you think would be good. So if we look at the midterm real quick, then we can then look at the KPIs, and that'll help you understand a little bit better. So for the midterm, you need to do these definitions and learning initiatives, which define business intelligence, the importance of data warehousing, and the differences between OLTP and OLAP. Um, you should identify them both and determine when to use each. These first two should be 1 to 2 paragraphs maximum. I don't need an entire page on each of them. I know what they are. I want it in your words, what you think it is. You're welcome to use the assignments and the PowerPoints that you have been given. Um, I do not want AI to answer the question. Data modeling, we've done some of this already. So define and describe the data staging process. What did you do or what would you have needed to have done to stage the data? The ETL process, which is extraction, transformation, and load. I give you specifics that you could talk about for each of those. So I would like you to outline the ETL process for populating the data warehouse, specifically what you did. in the assignments to get to where we are. Um, and then the problem statement, which is the part that has not been given to you in most documentation, um, but the answers are available in the data. So you're going to pick one of these three scenarios, and all of this information is in the data for global bikes. Um, you're going to either pick sales performance and profitability analysis, which will talk about sales data and revenue, and then the cost of goods, um, and then any discounts that are offered, and then there's some customer companies where you can analyze the sales by customer. You're going to need to understand what is selling as far as a good selling product and who is buying it and what that profit margin looks like. The second scenario is the discount effectiveness and then any customer specific insights. So you're going to look at the discounts offered to each customer company, and then you're going to look for the sales data for the bicycles and accessories to see if the discounts drive them buying more. You're going to obviously look at the revenue to see the net impact after discounts. You're going to look at the cost of goods manufactured to assess whether it's still profitable after you give the discounts. And then you're going to need to understand the customer companies again. These are all uh, specific, I just lost it. Key figures in our data warehouse. So you should not have to create any of this information. You should not have to dig very hard for this information. And then the third one is the product line performance and cost management. Now this looks at it from a separate standpoint using the materials table as opposed to the customer table or the sales table, or well, uh, excuse me. Um, so the focus for this will be analyzing the performance of specific product categories like bikes versus accessories or different categories within bicycles or accessories type of thing. Um, You'll be able to look at the sales data for both of those. We have created the material tables and we've set up those in the Fiori to set up accessories and some descriptions and the bicycles and some descriptions. We're going to look at their cost of goods manufactured per product or per product category. Um, and we're going to look at the revenue to and break it up by category to see overall which one is doing better, and then see if those discounts offered create or create additional sales or reduce our um, net profits. So a KPI stands for a key performance indicator, and you've probably heard this before, but if not, I have gone into some detail in some of the other documents, and we'll take a look at those in a minute. Um, so it's a quantifiable measure of performance over time for a specific objective. So I have also defined some easily found key KPIs for those three groups, which you can look at these obviously before you decide. Um, so the first KPI for sales performance would be gross sales revenue, gross profit margin, and sales volume by product category. Um, these you can easily reference. Now, if you would like to create a different one than one of these, then you're welcome to, if that makes more sense to you. I have created these as the default to make it easier for everyone. Um, but if you're more intent on digging out the data, then I will not take points off for imagination and creativity in this area. So the second KPI is discounted sales revenue, the average discount rate by customer, and then the sales volume growth after the discount. And then the third KPI group is revenue by product line, the cost of goods sold per unit, and then the gross profit per product line. Um, and so if any of these things are not immediately evident as far as your data goes when you're working towards your final exam, let me know and I can tell you what that would look like. I don't want to say a quick Google search will give you the answer to what these functions or what these mathematical things will be, and then have you rely solely on external resources. But a little digging can help you, but you're always welcome to ask. So for the reporting and visualization for each KPI in the group that you choose, and these are the KPIs that I am assuming that you are going to choose. You'll have to let me know if it's a different one. For each one of these in the group, each little bullet point in each scenario, I would like you to tell me what graph or chart from that picture, or if you want to use a different one, if you do a Google search, or you're like, oh gosh, I really love this type of chart. I've seen it recently and I want to use it. There's bubble charts, there's other charts that Excel has. I'm not saying that those charts are the only ones you can use. I'm using that as a uh, basis so that everybody has the same information to start out with. So if you want to use a different type of chart than what was there and explain to me why that would be a good choice, um, you're absolutely welcome to. You just have to tell me what type of chart it is and explain why. And then it says referring to the types of charts available in the document included in this module, um, which is the baseline. This is what will get you your perfect score. If you want to go above and beyond, it will not hurt your grade, is what I'm trying to say there. You do not need to create the report. You do not need to make the report for me today for the KPIs. You just need to look at the data and say, oh, this I think would look best as this because X, Y, Z. So, as far as submission guidelines go, it is Word or PDF with your uh, any pictures or anything included in the document itself. It should be well organized and clearly written, and please use a spell check and grammar check. Word, which I know we all have because I had to make sure you had Office for this class. Um, you should use that and make sure that you have no spelling errors or grammatical errors, that you've lined out each of these areas, problem statement, the data modeling section, and the definitions. Each of those needs to be fully completed. Um, for AI assistance, it says you cannot use this for any written part, but you can brainstorm ideas for KPIs and how to display them. But you can't have it be 25% of more than 25% of what I'm asking you here. So if you are going to use it to hammer these out, that would be more than 25%. If you would like to use it for one of them, then you should, let me know here by adding this. Or if you want to put it through and have it rephrase some things, you can let me know based on the paragraph and add it to the bottom of the paragraph. So I know one of my rubrics is backwards, but let's take a look at this real quick. So 30% of the grade is part one, understanding the business intelligence and data warehousing concepts. Another 30% is the effectiveness of data modeling and the ETL process. And then you need to tell me the relevant KPIs and the justification, and um, you tell me what charts you're going to use, and then the clarity and organization of the report, including screenshots of the charts that you would like to use. is helpful, especially when talking about each of them. A picture is worth 1,000 words, which doesn't mean that you need to skimp out on your reason why. Say, oh, I would to use a stocked bar graph to show the um, hold on, just so I get the actual wording correct. Um, I want to use a stacked bar graph to show the average discount rate by customer company, um, and then over, over the year, or over time, and then it would show which companies get which what size of a discount uh, based on what time of the year it is. And that's just a suggestion. That's not 100% correct. Don't take that as the gospel. You are welcome to choose whichever ones you want. Now, we will work towards making these graphs by the time we get to the final, and putting them in a dashboard for Tableau. So um, don't don't worry yourself about actually making the graphs. Just tell me what you think would work best. You can change your mind if we get there. In fact, that's part of the final is, hey, did you change your mind on what graph to use? If so, why? So we're going to look at these key performance indicators so that um, you can understand what a key performance indicator is and then use these to help you work through how to display that information. So a KPI is a goal. It's a measurable goal. And then I'll show you the document. So you need to know what the goal is, who the audience is. Are you presenting this information, this goal to shareholders, to the custodians, to the CFO and the CIO and the CEO? Are you presenting this information to your team? Um, there's different levels of information that need to be displayed and explained to each group. Not saying that custodians don't need, um, they actually probably need more detail than the C-suite people because the C-suite people just want the 30,000 view. They just want the overview. They don't want to get into the details, whereas custodians would probably want to know, hey, how can we be more effective for less energy when doing our duties and cleaning our space, right? So, key questions. Um, if the goal is to make the customer happier, your question might be, how happy are our customers with our service? If the goal is to make more money, your question might be, are we making enough money? If we look at those, I'm going to go back so we can pull them both up at the same time, and you're welcome to do this as well. If we look at this KPI as gross sales revenue, a question that you could come up with would be, a KPI would be, how can we increase our gross sales revenue by 5%? Or how can we increase our gross profit margin um, by 10% in the next year? Or how can we give less discounted sales to our customers? Or um, which customers are taking advantage of the discount and purchasing more during that time frame or that sales window. Another question down here would be, how can we reduce the costs of goods during the manufacturing process? How can we increase our gross profit per product line? So that in that case, that might be some manufacturing improvements. Now, these are things that I am suggesting because people come from all different walks of life, and some people are already working, and some people already have knowledge of different areas. I'm not saying that you need to understand the manufacturing process of making a bicycle, but if you did work at, say, Toyota or another company and do have some manufacturing information, then that information could be used to answer some of these questions. Your life experiences can often provide the answers to other areas of your life, which is why I specifically added this last one in, um, as far as this class also being a distance ed class, because some people have a lot of information in that area. So these are the questions that you'll ask yourself about that. You're going to name your indicator. So, um, and you want to make it be something that is understandable, not just like dollar sign for profits. Then you're going to want to think about how you get your data for your KPI and the data collection method. And then think about how good the KPI is. Does the one number tell the whole story, or do you need other numbers to get the full picture? However, so here's an example. Net profit is good, but you'll also want to look at how much you're selling. So if you're, that's that um, supply and demand where, yeah, you can sell your product when demand is really high for a uh, higher price, giving you more profit. But once competitors hit the market, if you're still really high priced and competitors are selling more at a little bit less of a price point, then that might be something that you want to consider. Um, because if you are too invested in the brand. I mean, and not to bash on Apple, but like iPhones, they're a premium phone, right? If you get a phone that's not quite an iPhone or an Apple device, it doesn't work the same. Things are not the same. It's not as good as an Apple phone, but does it do the job? Is it okay? Will people who cannot afford an iPhone purchase the less expensive phone? Absolutely. Should iPhone make a phone that's less expensive for the masses so everyone can have iPhones? And they've chosen to not do that. They've chosen to stay in the niche market of a uh, superior performing product using specific hardware so that nothing else in the world will work with it. I do not have an iPhone or any other Apple products, so I'm just making a joke there. They do work with everything. I do have some in the office that I help people on, and they work very well for longer times than PCs because they're very particular about their hardware. But the price is a premium price. So is that worth it to them? Apparently they think it is. All right, we'll take a look at those worksheets real quick, and I have one that is filled out. So here is one that is filled out. The title of your KPI, and you can put two examples on here if you want to work on the same area to kind of flesh them out as you go. You may start out with one for the midterm, and then by the final, you'll have a better understanding. Um, the strategic goal, the audience, the key performance question, the indicator name, and the data collection method. In our case, most of it's going to be in the data warehouse, so that um, you can kind of guess how that will be collected since I don't think it tells us everything in our documents. But you can say the data will be collected from the customer database, the data will be collected from the sales database, the data, the ones that we have that are our key figures that we've added for our snowflakes schemas with the fact tables, and then the fact tables will be where we're getting that information. So you can just list those. And then here is a blank version of that so that you can fill them out. So if you want to start one for the midterm for your suggestions, and I will ask for them at the final, so it's a good idea to start working on it now. And then at the final, when I say, hey, submit that, you'll have them ready. And if you don't fill out a second column for that particular KPI, that's okay. But as we go through another 8 weeks, you might say, oh, I want to refine it. Excuse me. I want to refine it and have it say this. Then you can see how you've grown during the class. All right, I'm going to end now as my throat is giving out. So I hope you all enjoy this midterm project. It is not meant to be difficult. It's meant to be a thought exercise and help you grow in the areas of data warehousing. And business intelligence and displaying data um, and finding the answers to the questions. So if you have any questions, email me and I will help you out as best as I can. Thanks.